Welcome back to this side of the conversation on Daybreak Africa as we return from our package for the day. Now it's time for us to go straight to our discussion for this morning. If you joined us from the beginning, you will understand that today we're taking a look at the topic Samoa Agreement, analysis of clauses, implications to Nigeria. Now, on the 28th of June, Nigeria signed the Samoa Agreement to the tune of 150 billion US dollars. Unfortunately, since that agreement was signed, there's been a lot of argument, confusion, and of course, disagreement amongst Nigerians who argue that within that clause or within that agreement are clauses that are sensitive to LGBTQ community. But the Nigerian government have said all they signed was the economic side of it, that there's no way in the agreement that was signed that had that LGBTQ clauses in it. The question being asked is, like I asked Ezekiel, when you say throw the water with the baby, some will say no, don't throw the water with the baby. So did we take the baby and threw the water away, or we took the water and threw the baby away? Well, we are not the analyst this morning. We have someone who, has an idea about the situation right now. And he is our friend, someone that you know on the show and on this station. He is Olorunfemi Oladayo Samson. Olorunfemi Oladayo Samson, who is a political analyst. He is a trained journalist, political analyst, and columnist, a former media aide to a lawmaker, educationist, and public relations manager. He is right here looking all cool and calm. Don't be deceived. So, Femi, it's so nice to have you on Daybreak Africa.
Good morning. Again. Thanks for having me once again.
Hope you're not angry. You know me. These names that we mentioned on Daybreak is another school entirely, but we'll try to get it. Hope I got it perfectly this time around.
Exactly.
Okay, so let us go now into our discussion for this morning. I woke up one morning and I know somehow, we have wrestlers from that part of the Pacific.
Yes.
When you watch old wrestling, we have wrestlers that we follow. That's all I know about that part of the world until I woke up in the morning and the Samoa Agreement, the Nigerian Samoa Agreement was everywhere and there was so much talk about it. So the bane of this caution is the clauses inside that agreement. We are made to understand that countries who partake in the largesse that comes from this agreement must agree to all the clauses, and part of it, or the core of it, is the LGBTQ sentiment in it. But the Nigerian government says, no, we never saw that. All we looked at was the money in court.
Yes.
Let us begin from there. Your reaction when you heard, your reaction when you read, your reaction when you began to gather the information up to this point.
Well, thank you once again for having me. This particular issue has been generating a lot of controversies in Nigeria, even down to the National Assembly. And I think we need to look at it from three angles: government angle, media angle, and the citizens of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and that from that angle. But we should not forget that in 2014, we had the same EU under former President Goodluck Jonathan. And as a matter of fact, I could remember Senator David Mark happens to be the Senate President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria at that particular time when that EU came out. And federal government under Jonathan then vehemently rejected that particular clause, that due to the nature of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, even though we have diverse culture, we have diverse of religion and so on and so forth, but I want to believe that there's no culture in Nigeria that admit that particular clause, that is LGBTQ, talking about liberalism, gay, and so on and so forth. So under Jonathan's government in 2014, that particular clause was vehemently rejected, and there was a law. I think as a matter of fact, there was a time, during that time, federal government came up with the DCU of Same-Sex Act.
There was a bill that was signed.
People should understand that we have what we call a Same-Sex Act in Nigeria. In such a way that prohibits this issue of same-sex marriage in Nigeria, and it has the legal implication. If you are caught practicing that particular act, it has the legal implication. So since then, till now, we've never seen a successive government from Buhari's government that spent 8 years and this current administration repelling that particular act. So people need to understand now. And the way law works is very clear, explicit. Like I keep saying, under Section 4 of the Constitution that establishes the legislative arm of government, going to Section 6 of the Constitution that talks about the judiciary arm of government. You know, legislative arm, they do want to come and give us law, but Section 6 that establish this judiciary will be the one to interpret law. And with my understanding, since that time, when that particular bill was signed into law that becomes law, no successive government has been repelled that particular bill. It means that that particular bill still exists in Nigeria in such a way that nothing can happen that will give room for same-sex marriage in Nigeria or allow LGBTQ to stand in Nigeria. But let's start from the angle of the government. Now where the area, we should not forget that recently now, there's bound to be a case lawsuit between federal government and Daily Trust newspaper. You forget, because I listened to the press conference of the Honorable Minister of Information try to accuse some media organization that interpreted that particular agreement in such a way that created confusion that we find ourselves in Nigeria today. I'm still going to the media. Now let's go to the federal government. Now I think federal government made a mistake ab initio of this particular signing of this particular agreement. Maybe forgetting that Nigerians might have maybe lost their minds on this issue of LGBTQ that came up under Jonathan. I think what government should be supposed to do at that particular time is for you to inform your public, your citizens, that Nigeria will enter into a particular agreement with this particular country, with this particular board. Have you
ever had any situation like that where the government tells the citizen the next step to take?
That is what I'm saying. That is what I'm saying. And we can go back to our discussion here on the issue of holding our leaders to account. Yes. I said it here that when you want to hold leaders to account, it's not about come and give account on how you spend our money. It's about how you run the government. The policies and the programs of the government must be highly transparent to the people you are governing over. So I think federal government made that mistake entering into that particular agreement without carrying the citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria along. That no, we know that this particular agreement came aboard in 2014, but the federal government of Nigeria vehemently resisted the particular clause. But we are entering into a particular agreement. But this particular clause, when you look at this agreement, that's the last clause at that particular, because I took time to read all the agreement. That's the last clause of that particular agreement, that federal government will not enter into a particular agreement, but our aim, purpose and objective is to get the money. Because when you look at what government wants to use the money for, climate change and so on and so forth and so on. So I think that mistake came from the federal government, and that's why we'll be questioning the activities of National Orientation Agency. Because as for me, I'm not satisfied the way that agency is being run by the federal government. Because when you look at that particular agency, it is after we have this issue of noise all over that the agency will not come out, start to sensitize people and so on. But initially, you're supposed to come, sensitize your people,
prepare the minds of the people
before you embark on anything, so at the end of the day people will have their mind clear on this particular action. So that is the side of the government. For government now not coming out now to clear the hairs that no, after getting to this particular clause, we're told that that clause now has been changed by gender equality. That's what we've been told now, that that particular issue of LGBTQ now has been changed to become a gender equality, such a way that you carry all gender along in all the projects. I think National Assembly also should be giving kudos for weighing into this matter. And that's why we have a National Assembly. You know, last time I was here, I told you that this is the first time we'll be having a National Assembly that's not dominated by two political party system. You know, as the current National Assembly now, we have about 6 or 8 political parties, in such a way that not everything will come to the National Assembly will go like that. We're subject to
the reaction,
counter-reaction, strong scrutinization and so on and so forth. And I think National Assembly now raised another issue that at least clear the minds of Nigeria and what government ought to have done before coming out to sign this particular agreement. Recently, I read a press release from the NBA president now, talking that they too have gone through the agreement and now can confidently tell Nigerians that LGBTQ has been expunged for that particular agreement. Agreement. Now go to the media.
Now, before we go to the media, it's important for us to include the international community on this discussion, because this particular episode is been watched all over, and after we record or after we are done with the interview today, we upload on YouTube where people can follow. So it's possible for people
outside
all over the world
yes.
to watch it. So when we talk about LGBTQ, we all know where the world is right now,
yes.
Aside some parts of Africa.
Yes.
So talking about the bill, the same-sex marriage prohibition bill was signed into law on January 7th, 2014,
yes.
by President Goodluck Jonathan of Nigeria, the then president,
yes.
Which is it was a sweeping and dangerous piece of legislation, says Human Rights Watch. That's human rights organizations. The law criminalizes public displays of affection between same-sex couples,
yes.
and restricts the work of organizations defending gay people and their rights. President Jonathan was the one who started this. The law imposes a 14-year prison sentence on anyone who enters into same-sex marriage contract or civil union, or a 10-year sentence on individuals or groups, including religious leaders who witness, abet, and aid the solemnization of the same-sex marriage or union. So if you're watching this, don't get too far ahead, because there is a law that prohibits LGBTQ
yes.
activities in Nigeria.
Yes.
The bill still exists,
yes.
and the reactions that Nigerians have to this Samoa bill is based on the fact that in Nigeria it's a no.
Yes.
All right, so now we're going to the media. Yes.
No. Thank you for that information. Now going to the media, we saw our media try to project this particular agreement in such a way that created confusion in Nigeria. Don't forget that this Daily Trust newspaper, in fact, reading the headline that particular day, I was a little bit in the state of conundrum that have we entered into a particular agreement, knowing full well that in 2014, you just read that now, that we have that's what we call an existing law that prohibit this issue of same-sex marriage in Nigeria, and we've never heard that a successful government has repaired that particular agreement. So I took time to read that particular headline from the Daily Trust newspaper, and at the end of the day, we saw what government tried to do, initiate what we call a lawsuit against that particular media houses that try to project that particular agreement in a negative perception to Nigeria, such a way that maybe it will make government to look as if through the back door they've entered into that particular agreement that was signed against in 2014 by Goodluck Jonathan. So what I'm saying is that I quite understand the role of the media in constitution as enshrined in our constitution. Section 22 of the constitution is very clear. That talks about that the media will hold government to account in such a way that government have that particular power under our law to question government, to verify, to investigate, and so on and so forth. But by the time we are doing our investigation, we must understand that at least there's what we call an investigative journalism. Have your fact and figure before you go out and publish anything that can cause confusion in Nigeria. Don't forget that majority of Nigerians who reacted to this particular issue of agreement negatively saw it on the social media, maybe through dailies, print media, and so on and so forth. So what I'm saying in essence is that although government has its own blame too, but what of the media? How are we projecting our news? How are we disseminating news to Nigeria in such a way that it will not cause confusion and so on and so on? So I was expecting some media outfits that reported this particular case that caused this political uproar, let me say national uproar in the country, that we have divergent views, where some are saying that have we entered this agreement and so on and so on. So I think in the line of our assignment as media, we all need to assess, and the people we are reporting to, that at least let's do our diligence before we go out to project any kind of information. I've seen cases whereby you see media houses, whether print or on social media, pull out some particular information, and at the end of the day, they will retract it, so on, then apology, and so on and so forth. So I think media also contributed to this particular issue of this disagreement between Nigerians and so on and so forth. So I think in moving forward, Ezekiel, I think next time we are trying to project anything, we should do our diligence. And recently now, the federal government now, through, like I said, through the Ministry of Information, they said they're going to initiate a lawsuit against that particular media house that projected that particular news to look as if federal government trying to put or circumvent the law that was signed by Goodluck Jonathan in 2014 and is going to this particular climate. No, if, like I said, no, if we that we know that in our culture, and that was the and that was the basis of David Mark then in trying to go against the issue of LTB as a Senate president in 2014. That in our culture in Nigeria, we doesn't have culture that permit this kind of same-sex marriage in this country. That no matter the pressure from international community and so on and so forth, that Nigeria, don't forget that under Constitution, under Section 1, Nigeria is a sovereign nation. What does it mean? That we have a right to enact our law. We have right to repair any international or maybe international or local law that doesn't suit our culture, our religion, our system.
We're going there in a minute, and I think indeed you made a very valid point saying the media owe it to the people, and that's what we are doing here in KAFTAN.
Exactly.
Ourselves and to the people to make sure issues like this is being rightly given the right information. Now we tend to vest our attention as a people just on the LGBTQ clause. What about other key clauses attached to that agreement or to that proposal? Let's talk about its impact, potential impact, and its effects on Nigeria's economy.
Ezekiel, let me tell you, if you want to enter agreement, whether with IMF or World Bank or anywhere, there must be a clauses. You see, not only one, about clauses that you need to meet. Even when you go to bank to go and borrow money, they ask for a lot of things that maybe you stand as a collector and so on and so forth. So no matter what you want to do, there must be some clauses that you have to meet before you enter into a particular agreement.
Going through those clauses, I believe you. Go on.
But the issue that is raising these doors is the issue of LGBTQ. And don't forget that I said
I think that should be the only clause that should be raising these doors. Don't you think other clauses attached should be looked upon?
You see, Ezekiel, the reason why this one is raising more doors is like when you have something that contrary to your culture, when you have something that contrary to your belief, when you have something that contrary to your religious settings, you see now, automatically people will strongly reject that particular clause. But when you look at other clause, like I said, other clause, it is, don't forget that people are not even talking much about other clauses. People are just centering their discussion on this particular of LGBTQ. That knowing full well that in 2014 we repealed that particular clause that no, we don't want it in our country. And like I used to say, this is not the first time Nigerian government will be entering or will be going in agreement in getting money. So other clauses are there. There's nobody will give you money free without meeting some conditions. There's some conditions that you have to meet. Even when you want to borrow money from IMF, we have some conditions that we meet. Recently, don't forget that under former President Muhammadu Buhari, you know, it was like we focus more on this issue of China and so on, go to China, borrow money to facilitate Lagos by the expressway and so on and so forth. So there are some clauses that we entered then in fulfilling this particular agreement. So Nigerians are not even bothered. If you enter into an agreement that doesn't go against your belief, that doesn't go against your religion, and that doesn't go against the settings, the government settings of your country, people tend to shy away from that. And that's why people are saying people don't concern about that particular clauses. But this one that talks, and don't forget that we have some countries that are practicing this issue of LGBT today in such a way that when you go to that particular clause, that is their own belief, that's what they believe in. In fact, as a matter of fact, don't forget that under Jonathan, when this issue of Shibogei, days ago, was it yesterday, I was here to discuss about the issue of insecurity. Don't forget that during the year of Shibogate, we had this international community that came just to assist us to rescue the Shibogate. But the conditions they gave to the federal government of Nigeria, we were unable to enter the agreement because we look at the agreement that no, this will have a negative end result on our country. And that was why they came to Nigeria under Jonathan now to help us to fish out our guests. But at the end of the day, Nigeria will weigh it that no, we can't enter this particular agreement. So because at the end of the day, it will implicate our system and they weigh their ways.
Let's talk about the relationship of this agreement to our economic development.
You see, Ezekiel, when you look at how government trying to, or what government want to use this money for, you see now, like I made mention now, they talks about the issue of climate change, they talk the issue maybe about environment. No, recently now Nigeria is battling with flood. Don't forget now, some states are already being flooded already. We are battling with this issue of cholera outbreak in this country. So I think when Minister of Information was trying to roll out this particular agreement and what we tend to use the money for, in conjunction with the Ministry of Budget and National Planning under the former governor of KBC, you know, they made us to understand that this is what we want to use the money for, to fight some challenges in this country True, we know that we are battling with economic quagmire in this country, that our economy is not speaking well, and we need a lot of money now to reshape our economy, to pump into our economy, and to develop our economy. So I think the EU that you said on this issue of our the effect on our economy and so on and so forth, I think that is where Nigerians now should be getting more information for the federal government. It should go beyond this issue of LGBT, because we need to know the end result of this money we are borrowing, and we need to know the end result. See, Ezekiel, it goes beyond say that you want to borrow money, you want to facilitate some project without know the end result. So we don't want a kind of situation whereby we enter into agreement in the next 3 or 4 years, it will be a negative, it will come as a negative impact on our economy, and that's why some countries today are strongly to go out of the economic problem, because the agreement they entered into years back, not knowing that the end result will affect the economy in such a way that it will be difficult for them to go out. So I think that's so at this particular time, it's time for us to shift our attention on this issue of LGBT and start to look at the end result of this particular agreement. And that's why I say that in the part of the government, it goes beyond coming out to say that our country has entered into agreement. You need to carry your people along. You say now, do the analysis, digest is that okay, we've entered into this particular agreement, we want to get this particular money, we want to use it, and this is likely to be the end result. Then what are we putting in place in such a way that at the end of the day, the end result will not affect our economy? We are talking about economy that the inflation is around 30-something%, the food inflation is around 40-something%. Don't forget that recently UN told us that if care is not taken, some years to come, millions of Nigeria will go hungry. So I think government needs to do a lot in sensitizing their citizens. This is what we want to do. This will be the cost implication, so that Nigerians will get their mind, so that at least we not plug ourselves into economic problem at just bit of the day.
Now the agreement, the new partnership agreement, lays down common principles and covers the following property areas. It says human rights, democracy, governance, peace and security. Others are human and social development, inclusive and sustainable economic growth and development. So these are the things, these are the clauses or part of the agreement that they have in that is inside our Samoa agreement. The agreement has 103 articles yes. Which comprises a common foundational compact and 3 regional protocols, namely Africa and the EU, Caribbean and the EU, Pacific and the EU, with each regional protocol addressing the peculiar issues of the regions. Now, Sam, with this, the document says each regional protocol addresses the peculiar issues of the region yes. that goes into the signing. So again, when we talk about the ratification of the agreement, remember Nigerians woke up and heard about the Samoa agreement. Then the media let them understand what it entails, not from our side, but from where the money is coming from. Yes. That developed and underdeveloped countries must meet these clauses before the monies are given. That is where that is the thread yes. they are tugging at right now. That the citizens are pulling with the Nigerian government, the NBA explaining to us. It's been discovered that for you to get the monies, for you to be approved to get the monies, yes. there are clauses from that end that includes LGBTQ sentiment, and anyone from the developed or developing country who gets the money must agree to all the rules. Now, again, remember the ratification was not told to Nigerians yes. until the voices started rising. Yes. And we only heard from Bagudu at a party. That was where the first time we were ever told, like, no, calm down. The clauses were ratified. Yes. We didn't know about that. Again, I feel that probably if you come back to regional protocol addressing the peculiar issues of the regions, if Nigerian government says that it was removed, should we believe them? Going by the fact that investigation says for you to get the money, you must agree to everything, including the LGBTQ sentiment. So what do we believe?
You see, initially I blamed government. You said that government did not carry with the citizens along on this particular agreement before going to that particular agreement. But at the end of the day, we were told that that particular clause, that particular LGBT clause was expunged for that particular agreement. But with what you read out now, we're told that at least you meet all the clauses, including the LGBTQ, before you can have access to this particular fund. Now, government is coming out to tell us that there's nothing like that in our constitution. And I think I want to base my analysis and judgment on the report by Nigerian Bar Association, coming out to say that they've gone through the agreement, and they've seen that this particular clause that has raised a lot of doors, argument, counter argument, that particular clause has been expunged from that particular agreement. So I think, it will be difficult, because we're not part of the agreement. In fact, many of us are just analyzing, discussing. We don't know the in-depth of that part, whether truly that place has been expunged or there to deceive the people of Federal Republic of Nigeria. But at least we should take our time, and this is where thorough investigative journalism supposed to take place now, in such a way that journalists go deep, or media houses go deep into this particular investigation to unravel things that are yet to be disclosed to Nigerians, in such a way that Nigerians will be carried along. And that was why initially I said that government, we don't do things like this. When you want to enter an agreement, knowing full well that it's possible for this agreement to raise noise, particularly on this particular clause. You see now? So you carry your people along, let people to understand this is what you are doing. So if the NBA has come out to say that, they've too, because we believe that they're supposed to do their diligence as one of the branch of the judiciary sector in Nigeria, that they're supposed to do their diligence and tell us the true fact of this particular matter. So I think we can still, to some extent, not totally now, to some extent believe that truly that particular clause has been expunged, removed from that particular agreement. But again, if they told us that that particular clause has been removed, we should ask them question: how did you meet the condition? Knowing that we were told that before you can meet this particular condition, or before you can have access to this particular loan, you must meet all the clauses. If you miss one, you will be denied to have access to this particular money. So we should be asking government, how come now telling that you've removed this particular clause? How will you get access to this particular fund now? What are you doing in replace to get it in such a way that law is law? This is not our law. We are the one that want to get particular money, and we can't say because we want to get money that they too will not ratify their laws. No, that's the template set by them, that any country, developing country, other developing country, want to come and assess our money. These are the things that are supposed to be. So we should be asking. That's what I said, that we need to ask government more questions. Ministry of Information, Ministry of Budget that will release the money. We need to ask them more questions. What are you doing? Replace, or are we saying that we have immunity? Or does the Nigerian government has immunity against that particular clause to say that, this is Federal Republic of Nigeria, giant of Africa, so let's remove this clause for you? So we need more explanation from the federal government to doubt the particular tension to know.
Sam,
but
this government is one that is one accused, of trying to run out activity more like in the dark. They don't really, should I use the word transparency? I use the word respectfully, but I don't think they are really transparent in their activity. Sometimes it is believed they make agreements or sign clauses that are not really in alignment with the interest or to the interest of Nigerians, as citizens and the people. Now, take for instance just this Samoa agreement. Like Anire rightly said, nobody exactly heard of it, publicly.
Exactly.
It was more like came out of the doors, just out of the windows, just heard it somewhere from behind, and that was where we came to.
And was the media who made it, who blew it all over?
That was where we actually came to realize
yes.
It was the media
it was the media that made it known.
How many more agreements have this government actually gone into that we have no idea? How many more agreements have they gone into that probably tend to attack our principle as a people, and tend to come against us as a people? Now we spoke about the fuel subsidy removal.
Yes.
The dollar
palliative, and so on and so forth. You
and
understand?
there is no repentance whatsoever. It's always from one layer to the another layer to the other layer, and it kept going on and on. Is there an end to this particular challenge? Because it's not like a challenge, obviously. Ezekiel,
I quite agree with you, and that's why we keep saying that at least we need a government that will be more transparent. We need a government that will understand the input of its citizens when it comes to something like. We are not saying that they should call all of us into a particular place. We know that there's no place that can contain all the citizens of the Republic of Nigeria. But at least the government must know how to make use of media effectively, Ezekiel. That's one of the problems we are having today. We don't have a problem whereby something will be done behind the closed scene, and at the end of the day, media will be the one to blow it out. Then government will come on a defensive line, trying to defend when it's supposed to come at the initially of that particular thing, called media, tell them this is what is going on, this is what we tend to do, then subject yourself to scrutiny. See Ezekiel, it is quite unfortunate that in Nigeria, most of our leaders, whether from the federal level, state level, although let's forget about local government level now, federal and state level now, we don't have leaders who truly believe that at least they're supposed to carry their people along in whatever they do, government policies, government programs, government intervention. They believe that the first of us do it, then if there is noise at the end of the day, they come on the defensive line. So things will not work like that. Don't forget that when subsidy was removed, we were told on the May 29 last year, subsidy gone, and that was what led to the fiscal between Labour and federal government, that if you want to remove subsidies, at least it's beckon on you as a government. Call some stakeholders, let them sit on the round table, tell them that very months to come, we are going to remove fuel subsidy, and this is the reason why we are removing fuel subsidy, and these are the template of grants. So government just woke up one day, told us that fuel subsidy gone, and a lot of things that the government doing without carrying the people along. We are not saying, like I said, we are not saying that you should. Don't forget that the issue of Lagos Calabar rape project caused issue at the National Assembly, where the Minister of Works was accused that he did not come to the National Assembly to take proper due process before embarking on that particular project. You understand now? So it's not painting the government well, and it's not showing that we are running a democratic system of government. Because I keep saying, people, the key difference between a democratic system of government and the military system of government, military, they lead on degree. They just wake up one morning and they tell you that a man will turn to a woman will turn to a man. But in the democratic system government, and that's why we do interpret democracy as the government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And the simple interpretation of that, whatever you want to do as government, carry your people along. Let people know what you are doing. Let people have input in whatever you want to do. Just like when you want to become a governor, nobody can become a governor today without people going to polling unit to vote for that particular, whether that vote is real or not real. But we know that people will go to polling unit and vote. So this thing has been lacking in this government, and we need more of this. Like I said, we can't be celebrating democracy without talking about what we've achieved in the last 25 years since 1999. So I think this one now is coming on the part of the government that, last, whatever you want to do, carry your people along. On this issue, don't forget that on this issue of Calabar Lagos project now, you know, the issue has died down now. We don't have anything again.
No feedback.
No feedback again.
So we'll come back. We'll take that short break. When we return, our guests will still be here as we continue on our discussion. Stay with us. Welcome back, and thanks for still being there. And if you just joined us, we're taking a look at the Nigeria-Samoa agreement deal that was signed. Of course, we're taking a look at all the dust it has raised because of the clauses in there. The agreement's provision will provide Nigeria with capital grants, human and technical expertise, as well as developmental aid. However, civil society or organizations say the agreement reportedly has some clauses that compel underdeveloped and developed nations to support the agitations by the LGBTQ community for recognition as condition for getting financial and other support. Before we went on the break, our guest, Mr. Sam, did tell us that he's going to view this discussion on three bases: government, media, and of course the Nigerian citizens. We're narrowing it down now to the sentiment, the fears, the tension that is coming from this agreement, because again, Nigerians are kept in the dark in terms of the laid down rules for some of the policies given to us. We never get the full gist of what is happening. We wake up and we get to hear it. So we would want you now to give us an analysis on the citizens' part of the agreement.
Yes, thank you. On the issue of citizen part, we know that all of us cannot converge to Abuja to ask government to tell us more about this agreement, and that's why we have what we call representatives, our lawmakers in Abuja who are representing us, our senators and our federal House of Representatives. They are our voices, they are our representatives in Abuja who are supposed to do their diligence to question the federal government through the appropriate ministry in such a way that our people, our constituents, want to know more about this agreement. Before I go for that, let me appreciate Nigerians for coming out to lend their voices on this particular matter. On social media, you know, we have a lot of them who raise the issue that we need to know more about this. Is it true that federal government entered into this agreement and so on and so. In fact, that was what prompted the Honorable Minister of Information and Budget to head the press conference just to clear the doors that no, we did not do this. And I think we are seeing more from the government. And Ezekiel, this will take me back to the issue of citizens. Are we asking questions? Don't forget that the last time I was here. Yes. That citizen, is it true that we're asking questions? Is our questions being asked in abstract or a Greek question? And I think we've seen more of it now, that citizens are not waking up to their consciousness that things cannot go the way it has been going before. The government will just come, throw out policies, and everything just keep moving as if nothing has happened. So it's like we are seeing citizens now who are taking responsibility and asking government that what we need to know, and we must know. So it must not stop there. So we need to put the pressure more on our lawmakers, because they have been the one to represent us, and they have been the one who have been representing us since last year, and they are our voices. So it beckons on each constituency now, whether at the federal level, whether at the federal or at the Senate level, that they must ask questions. They have committees. So let's add the appropriate committees that are in charge of this particular agreement. They come, brief us, let us understand more about this particular agreement, what government is doing to ensure that this agreement doesn't have a bad effect at the end of the day, and why go into this agreement initially without carrying citizens along. So I think the rest now is now on the shoulders of our lawmakers who are in Abuja to do the diligence, and we must not allow partisanship now to take place in this particular aspect, because recently or years back we've seen where EU will come up and the EU of partisanship. In fact, in most cases we've seen, in fact, I'm yet to see that in this administration, but we saw it in the last administration, whereby something will happen, and at the end of the day, you see presidency inviting the leadership of the National Assembly to a dinner at the presidential banquet hall, whereby they will sit together, gist, talk, and by the time these lawmakers will back to their chambers, it will be another story entirely. So we must not allow partisanship now to take center stage in this particular agreement. We must put the interest of the Federal Republic of Nigeria at forefront. When you look at the oath taken by the president, vice president, governors, on all our elected officials, there's a particular clause there that they will prioritize the interest of the Federal Republic of Nigeria beyond their personal interests. So they must not allow their personal interests now to override the interests of the Federal Republic of Nigerians who took to the polling unit last year to vote for them. And what is the key interest of Nigerians now is that, please, enlighten us the more, open our eyes, give us more understanding about it, because this what you are doing war, you are saying that you are doing this particular war for the Federal Republic of Nigerians. If you claim that you are working for us, at least it's beckon on you to allow us to have the clear understanding of what you are doing. So I think citizens must not rate on this particular issue, put more pressure on your lawmakers. They do their needful in Abuja, ask real questions, and again, media must continue to put more pressure on federal government. We must hear details from federal government on this particular agreement. We don't want this government. See, there's something that's very key in Nigeria. In most cases, you see a particular new government coming on board and try to castigate the previous administrations on the particular policies, agreement, in fact, I could remember when this administration came on board, the first National Executive Council meeting between all governors and the president was held, and the governor of Anambra State, the former CBN governor, raised a particular issue that the social register used under former President Muhammadu Buhari, that register lacked integrity. You understand that they should allow government to be developing their social register. So that's why I'm saying that we don't want at the end of the day, whereby the government will leave office, whether the next 4 years or the next 8 years, only God knows. And we don't find another government that will come aboard that will not open our eye to what we're supposed to have known now, to say that no, the last administration did this wrong. So that's why we need to put the pressure on those who're supposed to put on the to unravel what we need to know, that we not carry anybody or anything that will jeopardize the country to the next years to come.
Currently, I think the question all Nigerians tend to ask is, how does this agreement tend to impact Nigeria's economy, especially agriculture, and manufacturing. But with our conversation so far, it's more like everything seems very vague. Everything is just rather ambiguous. Nobody can really pinpoint how this is going to affect this, how this is going to affect this. So instead, I would rather ask, what is the timeline for implementation and review of this Samoan agreement, and how will it be assessed as time goes on?
Yeah, well, don't forget that this particular agreement is talking about what we need to use the fund for: human rights, development, economy, and so on and so forth. And you know, this EU of IGP now are taking over the space. Nigerians are not even looking at other clauses. Nigerians are not even asking questions. That's why they are looking at now, and that's why we need to inform people the more that, please, can we just put this aside and focus on the cogent clauses there that we need to know, so that we will not allow this now to becloud us. At the end of the day, we forget, we move to another aspect, and at the end of the day, people will not say that one. So I think what we need to be doing now, the next phase is to be asking questions. How do you tend to spend this money? What are the line-up programs for you that at the end of the day, by the time you get this money, how do you want to use this money now to revamp our economy that is at the stage of somersaulting now? How do we revamp it? The issue of agriculture, people are talking about we need to go to agriculture. Not recently, Mr. President created another ministry of livestock, trying to head other farmer classes and so on and so forth. So I think Nigeria now should be asking cogent questions now, Ezekiel, because this EU,
I think Nigerians have been asking questions.
Ezekiel,
they have been asking questions.
Ezekiel,
we are asking questions.
And we continue to ask questions, but we must start asking the right questions now. We must not allow what has happened, this issue of LTBs now, to overshadow the whole space. See, government is very powerful and they're very intelligent. Let me tell you, they can use the whole LGTB now to in fact, to scatter everywhere in such a way that Nigerians, don't forget that we have some Nigerians today that don't know that we have other clauses that we need. That all of them are talking about all of them are talking about LGTB.
That's all.
So at least we must not play to the hand of government. You understand now? What do I mean is that we must allow this to slide for a little and go into the serious one in such a way that by the time the money will come, we'll be able to track whether government is using the money the way they're supposed to use it. You know, the last time I was here, I told you that one of the problems that Nigeria don't have the knowledge or have question is that you don't even have the policies of government, what the government want to do. So when you don't have the policies and program of government, it's very difficult for you to ask questions. For example, if you are a governor of a state, Ezekiel, I have your policies and program at my hand.
The blueprints.
Correct, blueprint. Thank you. It'd be easy for me to question you that, Ezekiel, in terms of agriculture, the money you borrowed, how have you been using money to revamp our agriculture? We've not seen this. What about the issue of transportation and so on and so forth? So I think Nigeria now should acquaint themselves with the benefit we tend to gain from this particular agreement, and so that they will be able to track government activities on this particular project. See, guys, this is not the first time we're going to borrow money. You know, we'll be hearing that we borrowed money. At the end of the day, we will not see the effect of money borrowed. Again, we keep borrowing. At the end of the day, we will not see anything. So I think it's the right time for us now to focus on major issues in such a way that it's easy for us now to question government maybe in the next 2 or 3 years that, oh, the money you borrow from Samoa, you said I want to use on agriculture. Tell us the feedback in the area of agriculture. How well have you spent the money? So, like I said, we don't want any government to come on board again and be telling us that no, you know the reason why we found ourselves here, the money borrowed by last administration, they did not use the money they said they were supposed to use the money.
Which is the same story.
The same story we'll be hearing. When Buhari came on board, he has a question that where is the power? Despite all money spent by our personal administration to improve our power, that where is the power now? We are still talking about 4,000 megawatts in a country of over 200 million Nigerians. So I think that's why I say that Nigerians now need to focus more on the cogent issue of the particular.
Which brings me to my very next question at this point. Now, away from the LGBTQ clause, let's take this one aside just for a moment.
Yes.
I know you have gone through the clause itself.
Yes.
Now, I tend to wonder what challenge could you actually pinpoint? What are the potential risks in this clause? Considering our strength right now as a nation, like you said, our economic is quite somersaulting already.
Yes.
Can we really handle this agreement? Added to other debts we already accrued and all that challenge.
You see, Ezekiel, one of the problems is that, and one of the questions that Nigerians keep asking is that, you see, it's not against the law to borrow. When you go to constitution permits us to borrow, but it is dangerous when you borrow money for recurrent expenditure. You know, in the budgetary system, we have what we call a capital expenditure and a recurrent expenditure. Under capital expenditure, that's the money borrowed. Well, if you borrow money now to do some project, in such a way that maybe we have some projects that are long-term projects. In the next 5 years, we start reaping the reward, and we have some short-term projects. But when you keep borrowing, and that has been the fear of Nigerians, that are we not borrowing money to service debt? Are we not borrowing money for recurrent expenditure, like borrow money to pay salaries, borrow money to acquire cars, borrow money to build presidential lodge, VP lodge, and so on and so forth? If you borrow money for the current expenditure, you put your economy into danger. But when you borrow money for infrastructural development, you say now, in 10 years or depend on the timeline, you see the reward at the end of the day. It may not be dependent on administration, but the next administration to come, we see the reward. So that has been the problem in this country. And I said is that we keep borrowing money, and Nigerians are not even see the effect, positive effect of money borrowed. It's not like when you want to go into business, you are a businessman, you want to go into business, you borrow money. At the end of the day, you borrow money to pay your child's school fees, you borrow money to pay your house rent, you borrow money to start repairing your car. You know you are in problem. But when you borrow money to invest, to have more goods in your shop, then there's big kind of belief that in the next 2 or 3 months or 4 months, you have the reward. So that has been the problem of this our government, not this present government, previous government, just like recently. By the office of the Ministry of Economy, we were told that our debt to GDP now has crossed 50%. Unprecedented, you know the implication. There was time in this country that we were using about 90% of our IDR to service debt. That's the problem. So we keep borrowing, and we are not seeing the impact of that particular money we are borrowing. But if you are borrowing, and citizens are seeing the impact of the money government are borrowing, people will not be raising the kind of suspicious that are we using the money in the right channel, or we are not using the money in the right channel. My fear for this again, Ezekiel, is like when we get the money, are we going to use the money the way we're supposed to use the money? Are we going to use the money as agreed in that particular agreement? Because all these countries, see, when they borrow you money, when you have the money, I think most of them, for them to follow up whether you are using the money or not, it's difficult, because you said, in fact, in most cases, government will borrow money at the end of the day that no, we discover that these challenges is high, so we try to divert the money to cure this agreement. Do you know the number of years this Lagos-Ibadan Expressway has been going? It started under Jonathan. Under Buhari, most of the money recovered from Abacha loot, we were told under Amechi, because Amechi was the Minister of Transportation. He told us that majority of that money will be used to develop Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. Up to today, work is still going on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. So that's been the fear of Nigeria, that let's borrow the money, let's use the money the way it's supposed to. Because when you want to borrow, Ezekiel, when you want to borrow money, those that want to borrow you money, we ask you to come with the template what you really want to use the money for. You say now, you can't just wake up one day and say you want to borrow money for IMF. IMF will give you some clauses. What do you want to use the money for? Is it area of poverty? Is it area of health? Is it area of agriculture? Is it area of infrastructural development? Is it area of education? And so I think you need to state it. But another thing is to state it, to get the money. Another thing is to get the money and use it the way it was stated when you want to go to that particular agreement.
Now, Sam, it's funny because this particular agreement we're talking about, the negotiation, according to information, did not start yesterday. It started in 2018. So the question we're asking is just the same question and what we've been discussing all morning on this issue. If negotiations started since 2018, how come we never heard about it? How come Nigerians were not sensitized enough to know the clauses involved and how those clauses will be ratified to ensure that we do not get to this defensive point that we've gotten to today? Like you say, the Nigerian government seemed to wait to get on the defensive without carrying citizens along. It has become a culture. So I'm asking if it took, this decision was actually, the negotiations started on the sidelines of the 73rd United Nations General Assembly. That's what information says. So if this has been on the plate since 2018, how come nobody heard about it until this LGBTQ clause is now becoming a huge problem in the nation?
Yes, I mean, don't forget that when former President Muhammadu Buhari was leaving office last year, he told us that he will release something for the next administration. I can quote him verbally now. That we all remember. You release something for the next administration to continue from where it stopped, part of it happens to be the issue of fuel subsidy removal. Don't forget that under last, I'm still coming there, we were told that we're going to have a censor under the administration. People are already being recruited, trained, deployed money spent. At the end of the day, it was nothing being heard again at particular. So I think if we have to go back, we need to question the last administration. Since 2018, I think that was towards the end of the first regime of former President Muhammadu Buhari, because in 2019 he got re-elected again when he defeated Atiku in that particular election. So what has been going on at that particular time that Nigerians were not carried along, and I think again I will still go to the media. See, I can't be discussing it without going to the media. What were the media doing from that time to this particular time? They were unable to unravel that, okay, since 2018 there has been a particular agreement with a particular place, so that at the end of the day people will be updated. Like, let's admit that this issue of LTP is not there. This is how we get to enter this agreement without being known. So I think media also has a lot to do. Not allow things to just go. You know, it's our culture in Nigeria that something will raise doors, media will come up, some more 2 or 3 weeks to go, everything will go as if it did not even happen at all. So if this has been in place since 2018, what has media doing without carrying Nigerians along? Then the previous administration, and then totally, if this has been, maybe because of this LGBTQ and so on and so forth, the government then didn't have the courage to come and tell Nigerians, and maybe they said, okay, let's leave it till the next administration will come on board, whether they will be able to handle it. Oh no! Don't forget that we were told by Gabashew that Buhari is supposed to have removed fuel subsidy. Maybe he doesn't have the courage. That okay, the next administration. In fact, he piled up a lot of things for this current administration. Maybe during that particular time, they weigh it and they discover that no, our government cannot do this. It will raise doors, and we doesn't have the capacity and mechanism to manage the noise that this particular EU will raise. Let us lie low for the next administration to come to review. We have some cases whereby maybe I happen to be an outgoing governor, maybe I have some project I want to implement, and I believe that I don't have the capacity. If Ezekiel needs to come on board, if they have the capacity, they can continue. If they doesn't have the capacity, they may not continue. Don't forget that since last year now, May last year, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu just reviewed this Samoa agreement. So I think they must have weighed as well that okay, we can manage the situation. Maybe the last agreement didn't have the courage and wherewithal to manage it, but we can manage it. Maybe that's why they entered into this particular agreement, and that's why they are explaining that we call Shalaye now, but they will explain tire to people of Nigerians the entry into this particular agreement. Now,
many believe this agreement will tend to bring concerns among our fellow African countries. I tend to wonder what's going to be the implication of this agreement in relation to other African countries around.
You know, Ezekiel, we have some African countries that don't enter into this particular agreement, but we have some that as well we enter into this agreement. So it now depends on them whether they will remove this particular LGBT clause in their own agreement or not. It is left because each country with their own sovereignty. You understand? No. So we can't be deciding for what Mali will do. We know that currently Mali is under military junta now. So we can't be deciding for what South Africa, if they too want to enter into this agreement. But not all African countries will see reason to go into this particular agreement to get this particular money from this particular people we are talking about. Other can deploy other resources, and that's why we are saying that if we develop our own economy, if we develop our own mechanism, the issue of going out to borrow will be minimized here. And that's why I say that let's keep developing our own economy. Let's keep producing what we are consuming in such a way that there's going to be limits to how we go out to borrow money. For how long are we going to go out to borrow money in this country? What our high is talking about, you see now. So and then that's one of the other problem, because most of our high now we are using to service debt. So I think not all African countries, not all of us will enter into this agreement, and those who have the courage can enter into it, and it depends on their culture, their belief, and their region of that particular country.
This particular agreement tends to bring a lot of controversy.
Yes.
In fact, it's more like the highest for this year.
Yes.
Now, worst case scenario, what would be the potential consequences if Nigeria tends to withdraw from this agreement?
The problem is that what we are marked for that particular project will be there, because it does look like Nigerian government doesn't have enough resources now to carry out this particular project they want to embark on. That's why they are going out to borrow this particular money. But if you go out of the agreement, heaven will not fall. In 2014 we not buy the agreement. Heaven did not fall, Ezekiel. Heaven did not fall.
Indeed.
That's why I say that we are a sovereign nation. No country in the world can decide for us. And that's why I say that no every election cycle in Nigeria, we have EU observer that will come observe our election. They will give their report. That report is not consequential, but they will give their report. But we can't dwell on their report. So if we tend to move out of this agreement, heaven will not fall. Just like the project we want to embark with this particular agreement, where are we going to get fund? Where are we going to get money for this particular agreement now to be funded? So to me, if you go out of this agreement, not with, and I believe that government must have weighed the particular agreement that can we go in? Do we have the capacity now to go into this particular agreement? Anything that will come after, do we have the capacity now to absorb anything that will come after? They are not to the agreement now. Let's see whether they will have the capacity now to absorb what will come after.
I believe the government really care less as to clauses and attributes that are attached to this agreement. All they want is the money. Once there is dollar, once there is, just give us the money. Whatever you say, we'll do.
I think that would be highly sensitive of the government to have that notion that all what we want is for dollar to come. Agreement is very powerful, Ezekiel. So it will be highly insensitive on the part of the government, believing that all we want is dollar. Let the money come, Sam, then we do whatever we like.
Don't you agree the little technicality attached to this particular agreement would tend to mitigate our sovereignty and decision-making ability or decision-making power as a nation?
No. Not
in any way?
No, it can't mitigate our decision-making. It can never mitigate, because like I keep saying that Nigeria is a sovereign nation, Ezekiel. It will be difficult for any agreement to come and mitigate our sovereignty and political power in this country. It can't. And that's why I believe that.
Are you saying that has never happened before?
I doubt it has never happened before. I doubt, Ezekiel. I doubt it such as it has been happened before.
Sam, I want to ask a question. All this borrowing that we are doing, you keep talking about this particular monies, this particular 150 billion that we're eyeing and expecting to receive is for certain projects that we need to do. And there's this general belief that we don't have monies to execute this so-called projects. Then you asked a question that when it wasn't approved in 2014, did Nigeria fall? Or was there any problem that came up in terms of the refusal to go into
that agreement?
Now, let's take a look at this excessive borrowing that we're doing in the nation. Are you saying it's not possible for us to look internally and go after projects that we can actually handle ourselves? Because again, the borrowing has become too much, and it has become a burden not just for this generation but generation unborn. Let us take a look at this culture of continuous and incessant borrowing by every government that comes in. Every opportunity, every window that opens for borrowing, we jump through that window and go after the money.
Let me start from this comparative analysis that in 2014 that we did not borrow the money, ever did not fall, but we can't compare the economy in 2014 with the reality on ground now. In 2014, under Jonathan, we're talking about 80% unemployment rate. We're talking about less than 15% inflation rate. Now that we're talking about something percent unemployment rate, we're talking about 40% food inflation in the market. Dollar to naira exchange rate during Goodluck Jonathan was below 150 naira. But what are we talking now? Official market more than 1,000 naira. At the private market, more than 1,500 naira. What's the rate of we buy fuel in 2014? That should be around maybe 100 or 90 naira per liter. How much are we buying it now? No, scarcity now is not sufficient now all over the country. So it's like the economy then is somehow viable that we can still rely on our economy than what we have presently. On the issue of borrowing or no borrowing, I said it, that it is constitutional. We have the right to borrow. But when you borrow and you not channel the borrowing on the rightful path in such a way that it will give you a kind of backup in such a way that we don't have time or we don't have any reason to borrow again. It's not like government keep borrowing. We're talking about our borrowing now, maybe at the rate of, was it 21 or 20 trillion naira now? And we know that our deficit before this administration came on board. To me, if government want to borrow, please borrow for capital projects. Don't borrow for the current expenditure. I keep saying it. If you borrow to pay salary, there's EU on ground now, the EU of minimum wage? Can we pay it? Federal government is saying that, do you want us to start borrowing to pay minimum wage? So I think if we want to borrow, let's borrow and use it in the right channel in such a way that we develop our economy. In the next 5 or 3 years to come, we not see reason again to borrow money. So I think this issue of borrowing money again and again, and Nigerians are not feeling the impact, that has raised concern of many Nigerians. And to me, can we stand without borrowing any money? I don't know if that will come ever possible, that we stand and look inward in such a way that we not borrow, unless we want to cut the cost of governance in this country, because it is fact and nobody can deny, it is incontrovertible that our political, the way we run our government in Nigeria is highly is so costly in such a way that the cost of governance is highly on the high pedestal in Nigeria, that the money we invest in governance is so high unless we cut the cost of governance. So if we cut the cost of governance, then maybe we see reason to borrow less. But that can we do without borrowing? I doubt if that particular day or year or the admission will come in such a way that during the 4 years or 8 years of the admission, Nigeria did not borrow any money. And if we want to grow our own internal mechanism in such a way that there's nothing like borrowing again, then we must deal with some EU. The EU of corruption is there. We can't continue having this corruption system in place that we say that we not borrow. What about EU of insecurity? We discussed about this some days ago. What about EU of power generation? So there are some things that we need to put in place until we have a viable economy in such a way that we can rely eternally before we can say that we don't need money now. We don't need to borrow money now to execute any project in it. But in as much we still have all these challenges there, we still continue to borrow money. But what people are saying, see, Nigerians are not raising eyebrow on the issue of borrowing. But what they are raising eyebrow against is that you are borrowing and we are not seeing the effect of money you are borrowing on the lives of your citizens.
I wish we could go on and on this discussion, but time again is never a friend. Sam, you have 30 seconds to give us your final word. Well,
my final word on this Samoa agreement is that it will not end here. On this issue of LGTB, we need to go deeper and deeper for government to unravel everything behind this Samoa agreement so that Nigerians will have full understanding what we want to use the money for and be able to track government on each project they earmarked to use the money for, so that we can know the level of accomplishment of government. So like I said, we don't have this government to go and the next government will come in place and start doing, there's something in common in Nigeria, this issue of blame game of previous administration. Oh, it was previous administration that did this, that we were unable to. So we don't want that, and that's why that we must buckle our shoelace now to ensure that we track on government, and government is highly transparent, and media. I'm charging me that I know KAFTAN is doing very well, but we can still do more. Let's stand on the shoulder of government to keep telling us and keep unveiling more plans for, not until we push them before they talk.
We want to thank you so much for being on the show. Our guest today has been Olorunfemi Samson. We've been talking on the topic, Samoa Agreement, analysis of clauses, implication to Nigeria. We thank you so much.
Thank you.
We hope to see you next week.
Exactly.
Again and again.
Yeah.
Okay, that is the show for today. We want to appreciate everyone who has watched the show. We want to appreciate everyone behind the camera who has made today's production possible. And of course, our guest on the show, we appreciate him too. And our final take is ensure you run with the business part of the show so you can be financially independent. For me, Anire, Binitie, stay safe, and I'm signing out.
Have a great day. I am Ezekiel, Ogar.